You can be the driver. I'll be the driv.
Hey, how'd you like that, man, huh? I bet that window cost him $250. That'll show him, huh? And what do you say we go back and bust the other one? Why don't we just walk in and order another beer?
Yeah, you did great.
Did you ever see anybody as scared as a dizzy broad?
Hey, you guys, where are we going?
Let's go back and bust the other one.
Hey, maybe I can get a job. How do I sound?
Oh, come on, you guys, what are we going to do? Hey, how about the drive-in? Why don't we go to the drive-in, Charlie?
Movies? What's the matter with you? I'll tell you what. Why don't we go to a debating contest? Movies? What's the matter with him? That's a good idea. Okay, we'll go to the movies.
What's planned?
Well, who cares what's planned? Who's going to watch the show? Let's go, Jay boy. The cinema.
I was walking down the high street when I heard footsteps behind me, and there was a little old man in scarlet and grey chuckling away.
When viewing a director's first film with the context of his or her later films in mind, you can often see the groundwork on which the director built up his or her style. Steven Spielberg's Duel shows his early mastery of using editing and camera placement to build suspense, something that would be crucial to the success of Jaws. Martin Scorsese's Who's That Knocking at My Door introduced Italian, American, and Catholic motifs that would reappear through several of his most famous films. Ron Oliver's Prom Night 3 revealed an early talent in corny horror that would make him a success with things like Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, and Animorphs. However, there's nothing in Robert Altman's first feature-length film, 1957's The Delinquents, that seems to hint towards his unique naturalistic style that made him famous, which emphasized character interaction over plot. Altman's films are known for their overlapping and often improvised dialogue, political commentary, and slow pacing, none of which is even remotely present here. Well, except for the political commentary part, but the commentary itself appears to be studio-mandated and wouldn't have corresponded with Altman's own beliefs. Altman was an outspoken marijuana user and served on the board for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, and while I personally can't say for certain what his exact stance on certain issues were during the production of The Delinquents, it's not hard to imagine Altman agreeing to do this film simply to break into the industry. It was around the 1950s that films about inner-city teenagers were becoming popular. Blackboard Jungle, The Wild One, and especially Rebel Without a Cause all became huge successes. It is from those successes that film chain owner Elmer Roden Jr. was inspired to start producing his own line of teen-oriented exploitation films that he could show in his own theaters. Now, when I say exploitation, most people think of bloody sex and gore films, things the cinema snob would review, but really, exploitation was the act of exploiting anything for the sake of sales, and in the case of the films Roden wanted to make, that meant exploiting juvenile delinquency. The 50s was a time of a large cultural shift, where the youth of America began to be heard, which scared the crap out of the adults. While a lot of the stuff 1950s families worried about might seem quaint today, there was genuine worry about this upcoming generation of young people and what they may do to the country. As such, The Delinquents actually plays to two audiences. The teenagers get a thrill from the quote-unquote wild antics of the film's characters, while the film attempts to reassure adults that this is a cautionary tale, namely through a corny and condescending opening and closing narration.
The story you are about to see is about violence and immorality, teenage violence and immorality. Children trapped in the half-world between adolescence and maturity, their struggle to understand their need to be understood. Perhaps in his rapid progression into the material world, man has forgotten the spiritual values which are the moral fiber of a great nation: decency, respect, fair play. Perhaps he has forgotten to teach these values to his own. He has forgotten to teach his children their responsibility before God and society. The answer may lie in the story of the delinquents, in their violent attempt to find a place in society. This film is a cry to a busy world, a protest, a reminder to those who must set the example.
The film stars Tom Laughlin, who you may recognize as the man behind crazy liberal martial artist hippie biker Billy Jack, another personality behind this film that could not be at bigger odds with the film's core message, though apparently Laughlin and Altman didn't get along all that well during the film's production. Tom plays Scotty, a nice guy who just wants to date sweet Janice, but Janice's parents fear that she is too young to go steady, so they forbid Scotty from seeing her. Getting in a fight at a drive-in, Scotty meets up with a band of misfits led by a game named Choli, and once they get to know each other, Choli agrees to pose as Janice's new boyfriend, and every time he takes her out on a date, he passes her off to Scotty.
Where do you work, Bill?
Well, it's not really much of a job, I guess. I'm not so much interested in money right now as I am in getting a good start in life. I work for the stock exchange.
Feeling obligated to being their friend, Scotty takes Janice to a house party. Only house doesn't belong to any of them, and the party involves alcohol and sweet, sweet petting. When police bust the party up, Scotty gets the blame, causing things to spiral out of control into violent conflict. Prior to this, Altman had made industrial films and a few shorts, and thus was no stranger to proper camera work and lighting. As such, The Delinquents looks nice. A lot nicer than a lot of the other cheapy teen exploitation films that were being made at the time. The soundtrack is okay, though I admit to not liking as much of the popular music of the 1950s as I do other decades. The film opens with a rather lifeless blues piece by Julia Lee, which is odd because Julia Lee was most well known for songs full of double entendres, which makes her an inspired choice to open a film that's trying to be two completely different things at the same time. I mean, this was the woman who wrote a song about recreational marijuana use, but got away with it by replacing the word marijuana with spinach. Seriously, look up the Spinach song. It's kind of amazing. However, Julia Lee's song here is about the dullest thing she ever did.
You can be the clothespin, I'll be the line. We'll hang out together, won't that be fine? You can be the dustpan, I'll be the broom. We'll sweep together all over the room.
The few fight scenes in the film have great action choreography, and you can see some of the physical ability that would lend Tom Laughlin some credence as an action star in the Billy Jack movies. Though ironing boards as weapons, not all that impressive. Despite the technical prowess, the film ultimately fails at raising any sense of urgency. Part of this might be the fact that the delinquency of the delinquents is so dated, most of the stuff the kids in this film pull would result mostly in week-long groundings if done today. But even if I tried to put myself in the mindset of the 50s, I still don't think the stakes are high enough for me to care how all this turns out. However, one man thought it was suspenseful. The king of suspense himself. Yes, this film had one big fan, and it was none other than Alfred Hitchcock. Seriously, Hitchcock apparently loved the picture, and brought Robert Altman in to direct episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. That, above all else, makes this an important picture on Altman's resume, because if Hitchcock hadn't liked it, Altman might not have been able to expand his career the way he did. Despite all that, The Delinquents is an okay, if largely forgettable affair. As of this video, no official Region 1 DVD has been released, but it has been available on Netflix Instant for most of the year. So if the early works of Robert Altman interest you, or you just want to watch a not painfully awful rebel without a cause wannabe, then check it out. Otherwise, don't bear any regret for giving this one the skip.
This is one story. Who's to blame? The answers are not easy, nor are they pleasant. We are all responsible. And it's our responsibility not to look the other way. Violence and immorality like this must be controlled, channeled. Citizens everywhere must work against delinquency, just as they work against cancer, cerebral palsy, or any other crippling disease. For delinquency is a disease. But the remedies are available. Patience, compassion, understanding, and respect for parental and civil authority. By working with your church group, with the youth organization in your town, by paying closer attention to the needs of your children, you can help prevent the recurrence of regrettable events like the ones you have just witnessed. You can help halt this disease before it cripples our children, before it cripples society.